Hello, welcome to The Warp. I'm Jack Rita. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Red Alert aliens, my top 10 favorite Red Alert aliens from all of Cosmicdom, what they do and why I like them. So let's jump right in. These are all aliens, by the way, that I didn't have anything to do with their design or implementation, and I'll be doing my favorite of those aliens in a separate video. So, my number 10 favorite Red Alert alien is Prophet. Prophet showed up in Cosmic Conflict, and the way the alien works is you have the power to predict, and if you are not a main player or ally, so you have to be totally uninvolved in the encounter. Before encounter cards are selected, you predict out loud which main player, offense or defense, will win the encounter. And a deal counts as a win. So if you are correct, you will gain a colony on any planet of your choice. And if you're not correct, the winner, the actual winner, will select two of your ships and send them to the warp. So this is an alien that is especially good if you don't get invited to an encounter, or at least don't get invited to the side that you want to be invited to. You can sit it out, and then you can go ahead and predict it. And this actually has a fun effect on the game in a couple of ways. Of course, getting a free colony anywhere you want is fantastic, and you're going to want to make sure that when you do that, you load up. You want to put a lot of ships on that colony, because when you do predict incorrectly, they're going to be wanting to target your foreign colonies if they can. So if you've got 3 or 4 ships or even more, that will not be an issue for you. It does mean that when you ally or when you're on the offense, you're going to want to use 3 or 4 ships as well. But the other effect that it has on the game, which I really like, is that you can predict the winner when it seems fairly obvious who the winner is going to be, in order to try to influence the outcome itself. So especially when you get close, when you're at 4 colonies yourself, you can usually make somebody lose an encounter just by predicting that they'll win the encounter. And that's a fun effect as well. So that's Prophet, the number 10 alien on the list. Number 9 is Genius. And the reason that I like Genius so much is because it plays the game very differently than a typical alien would. And this is because it's an alternate win alien. Genius came in Cosmic Incursion. You have the power to outwit, and as a main player ally, whenever you gain a foreign colony as a result of winning an encounter, you may use this power to instead draw 1 card from the deck for each ship you have in the encounter and send your ships in the encounter back to your home colonies. And then at the start of any turn, if you have 20 or more cards in your hand, you win the game. And you can still win via the normal method as well. So Genius, I like it because it plays very differently. You're really interested in trying to get cards. You want to help the defense if they'll let you. And you're going out of your way to try to get those cards and play as few cards as you can. So it really changes up how you typically will play the game. You do end up being the target of compensation a lot. And if you're playing a game with the reward deck and the hand zap is out there, that is your nemesis. But you know, I like it because it plays differently. That's the big thing. All right, the next one on the list is Aristocrat. I don't want to say Aristocats. The Aristocrat is, and this is the alien, by the way, it should be noted that I was playing when I won the Cosmic Con World Championship. So, of course, it has to be on the list, because why wouldn't I include it on there? The alien itself was key to why I won that game. So that was really a major factor for winning. So what does it do? Well, it has game setup. So after flares are added to the deck, but before everyone is dealt their hands, you have 1 minute to look through the deck, take any cards except your super flare, and to form your initial hand, then you reshuffle the deck. And then throughout the game, whenever you're a main player, before encounter cards are selected, you can use your power to draw a flare from the flare deck and add it to your hand. And then if you have 2 or more flares in your hand that do not match alien powers that are in the game, you discard 1 of those flares and remove it from the game. So Aristocrat gets to try to quickly curate the ultimate starting hand and use that to their advantage to try to win the game. And what I did when I was playing it at Cosmic Con was I quickly looked at what the other aliens were in the game. So for instance, Mesmer was in the game. So I took more artifacts to make as part of my starting hand, just so that Mesmer was less likely to get artifacts, because they were going to be able to change any artifact into a hand zap and really screw things up for me. And it worked, because Mesmer didn't get a single artifact in that entire game. So they essentially didn't have an alien power. And I took the attack 40 and the 30, and I took the ionic gas, which cancels compensation. So if somebody was going to try to steal all my cards, I at least had one chance to do that. So I took Cosmic Zap, Card Zap. I didn't bother with the flares because I just didn't know them well enough to know, you only have 1 minute to search. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to take my chances with the flares and just focus on those artifacts and a couple of really good attack cards. And then what I did was I tried to get on the defense as an ally as much as possible so I could get rewards. And that was a big factor as well. So Aristocrat is a really good alien. The reason it's red alert is because you do need to kind of understand the composition of the cosmic deck and have a good enough understanding of the other aliens in the game so that you can quickly form what that starting hand is going to be. And that is, by the way, the point of the alert system. It's really about not so much complexity of the aliens, but your familiarity with the game and the nuances of how all the moving parts come together. So, all right, moving on to the next one is Saboteur. Now, Saboteur is an alien that came in Cosmic Conflict, and in the old versions it was the terrorist alien, and it planted booby traps it planted bombs that blew up when you landed your ships on the planet. But in a post 9/11 world, it was thought maybe we don't have an alien called terrorist that we're celebrating in our game. So it was Saboteur, which I think is it's much better, and I'm fine with that. I should note, however, that the original version of terrorist, you had to write down which planets were booby trapped, and at some point people were printing out custom sheets that had a nice diagram of the different planet hexes, so that it was easier to do that. Fantasy Flight is not into the pen and paper approach, so they want to have tokens that do everything. And a token approach was a good way to deal with Saboteur, but the final implementation didn't really work out. So I do a homebrew version of Saboteur. Now, the way that the alien works is that game setup, you're going to take these special Saboteur tokens, and some are trap tokens and some are decoys. So you're going to get one trap token and 2 decoys per player, including yourself. And you're going to place these tokens face down next to any planets of your choice. Place no more than 1 token next to a given planet. And then anytime anyone lands on a planet with a token next to it, you use your power to reveal the token. If it is a decoy, it returns to your sheet. And if it's a trap, then all ships on the planet, including those that just landed, go to the warp. And then you get the token back on the sheet. And at the start of each encounter, you can swap any 2 of your tokens, whether they're next to planets or on the sheet, and keep people guessing. The homebrew effect that I use with Saboteur is that we place the tokens between the planets. So you still actually get the same number of tokens, but you're placing them next to basically 2 planets. You can put one on the far end so that it's only adjacent to 1 planet. But in most cases, you're placing 1 token that is in between 2 planets. And that way, when ships land on either of those 2 planets, you trigger that token. So it really lets you affect far more of the planets. And in some cases, you'll have a planet here with a decoy and a planet, and then a trap. So this planet right here has both a decoy and a trap. So you can decide when ships land on that planet, is now the time to reveal the trap, or do you reveal the decoy? So that gives you more flexibility as Saboteur to decide when you may want a planet. May want to lull people into thinking. You want to lure them as well. You want to lure them to that planet thinking, oh yeah, this one's safe. He revealed it. It was a decoy, and we've been paying attention, so he hasn't really moved those around, whatever the case may be. But then you spring it on them the next time they land their ships there. The other thing that we do just to make sure is that all the ships, you put all your ships down, and Then, once all ships are placed, you reveal the tokens. So you can't do this thing, well, I'm going to put one there, and then did it go off? No, yes. No, I'm going to put 3 more there as well. It helps to try to police that a little bit more. All right, moving on to the next alien is Judge. And Judge showed up in Cosmic Dominion. It is an alien that adds extra wins or losses to the outcome of an encounter. So you have the power of Fiat as a main player. Before the encounter cards are selected, you may use your power to declare extra gains that either the winner or the loser, but not both, will get if an attack card is revealed in the encounter. So these extra gains are limited by the rules for deals. So you could say things like the winner will get a colony. And that means that if you're on the defense, you'll get a colony. It means if you're on the offense, you're actually going to get 2 colonies. You can also do things like the loser will get a colony and all of the cards from the winner's hand. So it can be monstrously wild in terms of what you're getting. It's a big cosmic zap magnet. And at Cosmic Con in one of the semifinals, I was judge. I didn't get to use this alien at all because I kept getting zapped. But I would have won that game very quickly if they hadn't zapped me, because that is how powerful Judge is. It's a lot of fun. It really gives you maximum flexibility with your hand, because if you've got lousy cards, you can assign extra gains to the winner. And again, if both players play negotiate cards, then the Fiat is not in effect. But you're in a deal situation, which is great too. All right, the next alien is Ghoul. Ghoul was actually an alien that showed up, I believe, in like Encounter magazine way back in the day, and it's a pretty good design, so it ended up being part of Cosmic Incursion. You have the power to feast as a main player. After you win an encounter, you use your power. For each opposing ship sent to the warp as a result of the encounter, you receive reward. So that is pretty powerful. If you can manage to win the encounter, every ship on the other side is a reward that you're going to get. And I remember playing Cosmic Encounter with Chris in Colorado. I was the Ghoul and won an early encounter, picked up some fantastic rewards, and then at that point, I was just unbeatable. I was just getting rewards all the time. It really demonstrated how powerful Ghoul can be, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun getting rewards. Our next alien is Chrysalis. And Chrysalis is kind of a meta alien. It came in Cosmic Alliance. And the way it works is you place 8 tokens, cosmic tokens, on the sheet. And at the start of any encounter, you use your power to discard a token from the sheet. So it's your sheet. It's really just a timer. You're counting down. So you want to prolong the game until you've gotten rid of your last token. When there are no tokens left, you're going to look at the top 10 flares from the flare deck. You're going to choose one of them, and you're going to become that alien, and you will get its flare added to your hand. So you really don't have a power for a good portion of the game. You're just waiting, but then you're going to get to pick one out of 10 possible with its super flare. And so that can be very exciting. I really like that idea. It's a lot of fun in practice. The other aliens are going to try to win the game as quick as they can. So you got to watch out for that. You want to ally with the defense as much as you can to really just prolong things long enough. You got to get through 10 encounters, and then you get to strike and hopefully just dominate from that point forward. Our next alien is Warpish. And a lot of people assume that Warpish is one of my favorite aliens because of my site, The Warp. That was really not the case, but I do like Warpish. I think it's a good alien. Really simple power of necromancy. As a main player, after you reveal an attack card, you add 1 to your total for each ship that's in the warp. So this is an alien that on the very first encounter doesn't really have anything, but it doesn't take long before you are adding quite a bit to your encounter totals as Warpish, especially if you're in a game with 6, 7, or 8 players. That warp is going to be full for a lot of the game, and you are going to be extremely powerful. And I like to use that power to leverage myself into deals as well. I love to make deals because it's mutually beneficial. If I'm attacking somebody, I say, look, I can just come in there and I can play an attack 4 and add the 23 ships in the warp and win this encounter pretty handily by myself. Or let's make a deal. And you can get a colony out of it as well. So having a big stick, a big cudgel as an alien like that gives you a lot of flexibility for deals. All right, we're down to the last two. Number 2 alien is Cloak. Cloak from Cosmic Eons. Now, this is an alien that I didn't really have much to do with the design of this alien. I just helped out with the wording on how it worked. We were having some difficulty. The original designers had designed this alien, Bill and Peter. They really liked the idea, and I'll explain what it does, and you'll see why I like it so much. But just getting that wording right took a few iterations, and so I managed to help out a little bit with that. We're pretty happy with how it turned out. So here's how it works. It's got a lot of text, and it's pretty tiny, and that's because you're trying to account for all the edge cases and shenanigans that will happen. But the concept is actually very straightforward. Whenever both sides in an encounter reveal attack cards, and the total of those cards is 20 or more, you can use your power. Immediately, you say, I'm using my power. All players have to fan their cards face down on the table, and then they close their eyes and turn away from the table while you count to 15 out loud. Basically, you're counting out 15 seconds. During that time, while you're counting to 15, you can move one ship, one card, both or neither. If you're moving a ship, it must be from a planet to another planet or the warp, or from the warp to a planet. If you're moving a card, it must be from one player's hand without looking at it to another hand, or to the top of the discard pile, or from the top of a discard pile to a player's hand. As a diversion, you may slightly shift other ships and cards around without changing their location. So you're making noise and clicking and whatever, and making people think, oh, it's happening in front of my system, or maybe not. After the first 15 seconds are up, you're going to count out another 15 seconds while the other players look for the changes that you made. They may not touch their cards or discuss, gesture, or communicate with each other in any way. Before time runs out, any one of those players on a first-come, first-served basis can claim that you moved one ship, one card, both or neither. And then they have to identify either the source or destination. They don't have to identify both for each move. So while you're counting up to 15 the second time, everyone's looking around, and somebody can go, okay, I think I know what it is. And then you stop counting, and they can say, all right, I think you moved a ship, and just a ship, and it was from this planet right here. Now, if the player correctly guessed, then they can either undo all of the changes that you made, or they can receive one reward. And if the player is incorrect or no claim is made before time runs out, no changes are undone, and then you, as the Cloak, get a reward. So, why do I love this alien? Well, it's because it's so ridiculously silly. I love the Cloak. Everybody, you see people playing a game of Cosmic Encounter, and you look over, and they've all got their eyes closed, and they're turned away from the table, and somebody's counting to 15 while they shift around cards and ships and whatnot, just basically trying to covertly do something like give themselves an extra colony, or take a colony away from somebody, or move a card, try to get a good card into their hand, or who knows what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to get a good card into somebody else's hand, or just put a lousy card in someone's hand just to be a jerk. Who knows? Who knows what your motivation is? But it's just so much fun to do. It's so silly. And it did end up in a game where we had all the players win the game. So we had a situation where everybody was at 4 foreign colonies. Destiny came up, and the color that came up was the one person who was not going to be able to join that win. And it turned out that was Cloak. And so everybody allied with the offense, and they won the encounter, but the totals were over 20. So Cloak was like, close your eyes. And they managed to make a switch around, and everybody ended up with 5 foreign colonies at the end of it. So that is utter, pure Cosmic Encounter, and that's why I love that alien. And now we get down to the last one, and it's the virus. Of course it's the virus. The virus is classically been considered, it's the most powerful alien. It is powerful, and the way the virus works is When you are a main player, the number on your attack card is multiplied by the number of your ships in the encounter instead of adding normally. So as Virus, you play an attack 10 with 4 ships, you have a 40. Now this is hard to sustain. As the game goes on, your ability to multiply by 4 is going to get harder and harder, especially on your home colony. So when you're the defense, you're going to have situations where you have maybe only 1 ship left. So now you're not adding anything. You're just, whatever your card is, that's all you have. Or if you have no ships on a planet, now you're multiplying by 0. But again, that's going to be on defense. So on offense, you are going to be pretty powerful. And because you're so powerful, you're going to be able to get other people to join your alliance pretty much anytime you want. It's really hard for somebody to go, oh, yeah, let's ally against a virus. What could go wrong? Now, like the Judge, people like to save their cosmic zaps for the virus. So you're going to have to deal with that every once in a while. But again, if you've got a good attack card, you might as well play it. When you know that the cosmic zaps have been played, or you know where they are, or you have them, then you can get away with playing more of a lower or mid-range card and still do really well. But in the early part of the game, I go ahead and I play those. If I've got the attack 40, I'm going to go ahead and play it. Because that's the most likely time to get cosmic zapped is early, when everyone's got full hands and somebody's got it. And they're going to say, yeah, I don't feel like I'm wasting a cosmic zap if I'm playing it on Virus. He's one of the best aliens to target for that sort of thing. So keep that in mind. But that's my top 10 for red alert aliens. As you can see, most of these were not very complex in terms of how their effects work. So that doesn't really necessarily have to slow things down. And I think in most of these cases, even a new player, they'll understand how the alien works. It's mostly like, how do you work against it? That's the big reason why Virus is a red alert alien. It's not because I can't figure out how to do maths. It's actually pretty easy to calculate the encounter totals with Virus, but it's understanding how do we counter that? Is it a matter of all of us allying against them? Is that going to help? It certainly does help, but probably not enough most of the time. But it's like, all right, knowing that this cosmic zap is probably good to play on the Virus, or to try to find situations where we can whittle down the Virus's ships on some of their colonies so that they are not as potent throughout the entire game. So that is Red Alert for Cosmic Encounter. Thanks for watching, and we'll do more of these